Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I am Mrs. Bromacombe, and we are going to look at fixed assets activity 2. Now, this is quite a challenging activity, so I'm going to go into detail while completing the questions. If I look at the information, they've provided us with a fixed asset note. And then I've got the questions that I need to complete. 2.1 is based on vehicles and 2.2 is based on equipment. We are going to look at each one of those individually. So starting with vehicles. The business owns 2 identical vehicles that were bought on the same day. One of these vehicles was sold for $245,000 on 31 December 2020. Calculate the profit or loss from selling the asset. Now, immediately, if you ask calculate profit or loss, you should know that you can use the asset disposal account to solve this. Now, looking at the information given, they've given us the cost in the beginning, accumulate, and the carrying value. If we look at the movement, it consists out of additions, which was nothing. Disposal, please remember that disposal is always at carrying value. They provided us with the total depreciation, which always consists out of the old plus the new plus that which we've sold. Then we've got the balances at the end. Cost minus accumulate equals the carrying value. So, what's my starting point? I always use T accounts to solve a problem in accounting. If I look at vehicles, we have a balance in the beginning of 1 million. Additions, they were nothing. Again, do not use the asset disposal, the 220,000. That is at carrying value. They provided me with the balance at the end. So to calculate the cost on the asset which we disposed of, we simply take the debit 1 million minus the credit 500,000, and the difference is 500,000. You could have also said, well, if I've got 2 identical vehicles that were bought on the same day, we can take the 1 million and divide it by 2. So that would have given us exactly the same answer. Be careful with the accumulated depreciation. The accumulate in the beginning is 440,000. The total depreciation is 150,000. Remember, it consists out of the old plus the new plus what we've sold. So there weren't any additions. But now when calculating depreciation on that which we've sold, it's from the beginning of the accounting period until the day that we've sold it. To calculate on the old, we have to take the beginning until the end, which is equal to 12 months. So I cannot simply take the balance in the beginning plus the depreciation and divide it by 2. So the balance at the end is given to us, 310,000. So to find out what was the total accumulated depreciation on the asset which I disposed of, we take the credit minus the debit, and that equals 280,000. So now, by completing the asset disposal account, step number 1, take out the cost. So asset disposal is debited with 500,000. Step number 2, update your depreciation. Step number 3, take out the total accumulated depreciation. So on the credit side, I'm going to have 280,000. Step number 4, record the selling price. We sold it for 245,000. So now my last step, calculate if you made a profit or a loss. So to calculate if I made a profit or a loss, we can calculate the book value. 500,000 minus 280,000 means the book value equals 220,000. So if I compare that to the selling price, it means that we sold it for more than the book value, which means we made a profit. This is one way of doing it. A second way of doing it is just by balancing the account. Take the debit side minus the credit side. You would see that your answer on your calculator will be a negative. This is why, because the credit side is more than the debit side, so then you know the balancing figure appears where? On the debit side. And if it's on the debit side, we made a profit. Looking now at equipment. Calculate the cost price of equipment purchase. So if I look at the information provided, they've given us the cost in the beginning, the accumulate and the carrying value. Movement, additions, question mark, disposal, there weren't any disposal because it says 0, and the depreciation is a question mark. Then they've given me the balances at the end, the carrying value, and only the accumulate. So how do I solve calculating the cost? If I open up a T account, again, you don't need to open up T accounts. I use T accounts as a method, as a tool. I'm going to simply fill in the information which I've got. We've got the balance in the beginning, 200,000. Additions is a question mark. Asset disposal is 0. Now the balance at the end is also a question mark. So to calculate the cost at the end, you know that cost minus accumulate equals book value. So if the cost is equal to X, the accumulated depreciation is 105,000 and the book value is 155,000. To get X alone, we need to take 155,000 and now we need to add 105,000. So the total cost is 260,000. And this is the balance at the end. Can you see how mathematical skills is applied in accounting? So now, if the balance at the end is 260,000, I can calculate the additions by taking the credit side minus the debit side. So my additions equals 60,000. Looking at question number B, calculate the depreciation on equipment for the year ended 30 June 2021. Very important, do not use the 10% mentioned in number C. So this is just basically testing your basic understanding of the note. So, my step number 1 is every time when I solve a question mark, I'm going to fill in the information. So if I open up a T account but using it at book value, it's an asset plus on the debit minus on the credit. So we're going to start with the balance brought down. What was the carrying value in the beginning? 120,000. So now I'm just looking at my movement. My movement, there was additions of 60,000, which we calculated in question number A. Disposals is 0. The depreciation is the question mark, so we still need to solve that. So now they provided me with the carrying value at the end. So the balance at the end is 155,000. So to solve the depreciation, we're going to take the debit side minus the credit side. So my total depreciation equals 25,000. This is a method for later on when we're doing cash flow statement looking specifically at the investing activity. This is one way of knowing what was the proceeds and what was the additions, the purchase of non-current assets. Question number C. If depreciation is calculated at 10% per year on the cost, determine the date on which the new equipment was bought. So again, if I look at the information given and those question marks, I'm going to fill in all the calculations I've already done. So to find out what is the date on which we bought the new equipment, we will start with the depreciation. That's our starting point. My depreciation, the total depreciation for the year is 25,000, and this consists out of the old plus the new. So to calculate the depreciation on the old, I'm going to take the cost, 200,000, and times it with 10%. So if the total depreciation on the old is 20,000, I simply take the credit minus the debit, so the depreciation on the new amounts to 5,000. If you calculate depreciation, you should know that the cost times the percentage times the months equals the depreciation. So what do I got? I got the cost, 60,000, times the percentage, 10 over 100, times x over 12. That is what I need to calculate. When did we buy this? And the depreciation we've calculated is 5,000. So to get x alone, we're going to take 60,000 times 10. That equals 600,000 divided by 1,200. So to get the x alone, we're going to take 5,000 times 1,200. So x equals 10. So if I draw up a timeline, my accounting period ends 30 June 2021 and it starts the 1st of July 2020. I now need to count backwards. Why? When we're calculating depreciation on the new, it's from the day we purchased it until the end of the accounting period. So counting backwards 10 months means that we have bought this either on the 1st of September or the 31st of August. Looking at our last question, equipment consists of smaller tools used in a workshop. The owner is concerned because these tools have to be replaced on a regular basis. So it's costing the business, the company, money. So name 2 control measures that can be put in place to avoid this. Please take note how internal control is incorporated into all the different topics. So here we're specifically asking you to name 2 control measures that we can put in place to prevent this from happening, where we need to replace our tools on a continuous basis. So first we can say the tools must be packed away every evening and weekend, and we can say specific places. Secondly, each worker is responsible for their own set of tools, which means that when we as a business provide them with tools, they need to sign for it. Make sure that regular physical counting of equipment takes place so that we can see if there's anything missing. Make sure workers are searched before leaving the premises. They should not be allowed to take the tools home. The tools should be used for business purpose only, and it must stay on the premises. Thank you very much. I hope you've learned a lot by watching this video. I want to leave you with a quote. Success consists of going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. Next activity, we're going to look at fixed assets, completing the tangible asset note. I hope you have a wonderful day. Goodbye.